Jake Gogats.
Irina Huang.
The business of us all.
How the murder of Emmett Till galvanized the civil rights movement.
Miss Till, I know you went through all this trouble getting the body from Mississippi to Chicago, but are you sure you want to see it?
You mean I spent all this money to get a body I can't even look at? I want to see my son.
But Miss Till...
Turn me loose. I've got a job to do, and I don't have time to be fainting now. I'm going in the box.
His teeth. I took so much pride in his teeth. They were the prettiest things I'd seen in my life. Just two now, because they've been knocked out. And his ears, they were just like mine. Was it necessary to shoot him on top of all that? They tell me my son whistled at a white woman in Mississippi. I let him go down there to visit his great uncle and cousins. I told him about the rules of the South, how blacks can't act the way they do in Chicago. But my little Bobo, he just didn't understand. The woman he whistled at, her husband and brother-in-law, came in the middle of the night for Bobo, barged right in. 3 days later, my son was found with a cotton gin fan tied around his neck, weighed down in the Tallahatchie River. It would be easy to say no, close the casket, I can't bear it. But when they ask me what kind of funeral I want for my son, I'm gonna make sure they open that casket. And when they ask me if I want Bobo's face fixed up, I'm gonna say no. Let the people see what I have seen. I can't tell this story without the world seeing what they did to my baby. I want him to die a hero. Let the people see what I have seen.
On August 28, 1955, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam murdered 14-year-old Emmett Till in cold blood after whistling at Bryant's wife. Emmett's mother, Mamie Till, and the media together forced blacks to confront and respond to the long-brewing issue of racial tensions in the South. Emmett's death was a major turning point for blacks, as a moment of realization that much more work needed to be done for the fight against racial inequality, helping spark the civil rights movement.
September 23rd, 1955, fourth and last day of trial of Emmett's white murders. Black and white reporters from all over country present. Milam and Bryant acquitted of murder by an all-white jury.
Excuse me, can I look at your notes?
I don't know, sir. The sheriff said us black reporters ought not to speak to white reporters.
By next week, I'll be back in the North. What's he gonna do?
Well, all right. Where north are you from?
New York.
Is it shocking how different things are here?
Well, we've always recognized that things in the South are different, but I didn't imagine it to be like this. I mean, this morning I picked up a local paper. It quotes a Southerner as saying, "Milam and Bryant deserve honor, not blame, for doing their duty. After that Brown v. Board case, us whites must ensure racial desegregation does not spread. Even if those men actually killed the little darky, a verdict of justifiable homicide would be in order. I can't help but think that all this attention is nothing more than a plot against the South."
That kind of mindset isn't uncommon. White Southern culture is determined to maintain white supremacy.
So the not guilty verdict was decided long before this trial began?
Of course, this is Mississippi. Here in the South, when a black man is lynched, he's generally accused of being a sexual aggressor, and thus deserving of punishment. In fact, Southerners are justifying Emmett's murder by citing his sexually aggressive behavior.
See, Northerners need to know that. They need to see and feel how truly violent Southern culture is.
And that's exactly what's happening. This case is a media phenomenon. It's on TV, in magazines, and in the papers. This is an opportunity to not only reveal the horror of this case, but to show everyone that racial oppression is severe and won't stop on its own. So that's why I think this is a turning point.
Right, now all blacks understand how bad racial tensions have become.
Exactly. No Negro, whether from the North or South, can look at Emmett's face and not feel indignation. No black parent can look at Emmett and not wonder, what if he was my son? Now, racial tensions are in your face, personal, and you can't escape them. As the media spread Emmett's story, citizens with widely varying opinions wrote into the federal government. Some criticized, while others praised the FBI's absence in the case. Mr. Hoover, there are more letters for you. Here's one from Europe, another from New York. Listen. We are convinced that the savage lynching of Emmett Till is part of the Southern lynch hysteria to impede the desegregation of the public school system as decreed by the Supreme Court. We demand that you prosecute those responsible for this lynching and those whipping up the lynch hysteria.
You're telling me the Supreme Court strikes down school segregation, and now Negroes are complaining that there's a lynch hysteria because of it?
Mr. Hoover, are you aware that from 1951 to 54, there were no reported lynchings in Mississippi? Then, after the 1954 Brown v. Board decision, The lynchings of 2 black men were reported within a span of 4 months. Then his 14-year-old boy was murdered.
How do you know those murders have anything to do with Brown v. Board?
The first was killed for demanding desegregation. The second was murdered for casting his ballot. White Southerners are trying to show blacks their place in response to Brown v. Board. Clearly, this isn't the kind of progress blacks need.
And what is the government supposed to do about it? The courts have done their job. We can't strike down racism.
So now, if the federal government will intervene, where will blacks turn? From Indiana. Emmett's death has made me commit to changing the unjust situation us blacks face. His murder is making others unable to take what they were able to in the past. The Till death is starting the fire that lets us know we have to make changes. So now, aside from court action, unlike ever before, blacks are now taking the fight into their own hands, making this a grassroots movement. As individuals, blacks want to change the world for their children. They want to change the world for Emmett Till.
Attention! The Garment Center Labor Rally will begin shortly. Please draw your attention to the stage. Is that Jet Magazine?
This? Yes, it is.
It's been sold out everywhere.
Right, lately everyone's been reading about Emmett's murder.
I can't seem to get his face out of my head.
You've read the article?
Nobody attended the funeral. Tens of thousands of people lined up just to see his body. And then when you got into his casket, you saw his battered face underneath his last portrait. It made it real, you know. Women were fainting all over the place. They had to keep nurses at the scene.
It was that bad?
Haven't you seen the photos?
Of course, I can't imagine there's a single member of the black community who hasn't.
Exactly. After this, the black community cannot ignore the ugly reality facing this nation. We can't even keep our children safe. I was talking to my 12-year-old son about the murder, and he said, "Daddy, could that have been me? Should I not talk to my white friends? They're just children, and they're already afraid of white men." We're realizing now, racism doesn't just affect us, it affects our children.
You're right. Already, preachers everywhere are speaking about Emmett and demanding that something be done now. Labor unions are organizing rallies just like this one, with thousands in attendance. Just last week, there were rallies in Cincinnati, New York, California. It's incredible how much his case has spread.
Nothing has ever been publicized like this before. This is a child. This is in the media. This is a mother who isn't afraid to expose her son's story to us blacks who act like we don't know what's going on in the South. We aren't used to the media feeding us such gruesome photos. Not even war photos are this graphic. But this makes me angry. This makes it real.
But why does it change anything?
It changes things because blacks have to come together to take a stand. It can't be passive legal change anymore. Brown v. Board didn't galvanize anyone. In fact, it tricked some of us into believing that integration and change were just around the corner. But this shocked me out of that complacency that I fell into. This is our turning point.
This story has that much power?
It's not just his story, it's about what's to come. Do you think that Mississippi is ever going to convict those men for what they did? Do you think the FBI is ever going to intervene? No. If we don't fight, we have to expect complete and utter defeat.
You're right. And there's something about the story of the death itself that resonates with me.
It's the innocence. Emmett whistled at a white woman. He made a mistake, and he was put to death for it. Too many people are going to realize that they don't want it to be this way, and that they will do whatever they can to change it.
Following Emmett's death and trial, tens of thousands of dollars are donated to help the NAACP. Membership soars. The youth of 1955 receive inspiration that will later drive them to fight for equality.
Regarding her choice to stay seated 100 days after Emmett's death, Rosa Parks said, "I thought about Emmett Till and I could not go back. I paid the same fare as others and I felt violated."
Martin Luther King Jr. stated, "I have a dream that there will be a day where we will no longer have to face the atrocities that Emmett Till had to face."
Together, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Emmett Till were the father, mother, and child of the civil rights movement.
The night of Rosa Parks' arrest, flyers are circulated defaming the Montgomery bus rules, asking that Negroes not ride the bus. Martin Luther King Jr. leads what is usually recognized as the first event of the civil rights movement.
As Mamie Till once said, 2 months ago I had a nice apartment in Chicago. I had a job, I had a son. When something happened to the Negroes in the South, I said, that's their business, not mine. Now I know how wrong I was. The death of my son has taught me that anything that happens to us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all.